Good morning, everyone. We don't have a lot of people. Where are the people? Anyway, guys, how are we doing?
I'm doing good.
Wonderful. That was Kenda. Morgan, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Wonderful. I'm going to give them a couple of minutes. Okay, it's 34. I'm going to start at maybe 36, 37, and we'll record our session as usual. How are you, Tyler? All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. People are trickling in, but we're going to start. It's 9:36. Waited for a minute. So guys, of course, we're going to tell you what we're going to do today. And then I'm going to ask you guys questions if you have any, of course. But before we do that, and this is for everyone, the No Credit Exam 2 is here. If you want to take a look at it, it's the same questions, but it appears in a fixed order. So when you took the exam, questions were scrambled. This time it's not. So if you refer to exam 2, you can always say, you can either talk about your exam number 4, that's fine, or you can just talk about this test. You can take it. You can ask me to grade it. Other than that, I won't grade it. If you missed exam 2, you probably want to take it. It's called No Credit Exam 2. And I know I'm repeating myself. If it's a no credit exam, that means you can take it. You can ask me to grade it. I will grade it, but it will not go to your grade book. Okay, having said that, exam 2, most of you wrote your grades were fine. Most of you wrote the answers in the proper format. A couple of you are still not following the proper format, okay? So I'm going to go over it once again. I'm not going to show you the whole thing. You will look at this video right here under Study Guide 2. And this video shows you how you can enter the expressions in proper format. And you want to do that on exam 3 and the final. If you don't do it, I'll take off half of your points, even if your answers are correct. All right. Having said that, guys, anything you guys want me to do? Do you have any questions before I go over the new stuff? Let's see. Any questions from anyone? Okay, if you come up with something, please let me know. Anytime, unmute yourself. So guys, today's section is, let me go back and check, okay? Today's section, I believe it's 1.5. And I'm going to tell you a couple of important things, okay? It would be nice if you don't email me about this very same thing. We did up to 1.3. We're going to skip 1.4. We're going to do 1.5. All right. I hope we're clear. You're not responsible for 1.4. All right. So the good news is 1.5. I'm going to write it down here so that you can see. 1.5 is quadratic equations. And we have been solving things and quadratic. I know it's a little too small, but I'll make it a little bigger for you guys. Okay, that's the name of the chapter. Okay, quadratic equations. There's not a whole lot going on. Okay, it will seem like a review. There will be a formula. We're going to do a few things in an interesting way, in interesting ways, I guess. Other than that, it will seem like things, it builds on things we have done. These are the problems I have assigned, 1 through 34, 47 through 74. They're here. We're going to do some of them. So how do we solve a quadratic equation and what do they look like? Okay, the very basic one looks, I'm going to pick a problem from here. Let's say I want to solve this. Okay, the very first one. Make it a little bigger. This is, I'll tell you what a quadratic equation is. Okay, let me show you what a quadratic equation is first. So this is a quadratic equation. You have an x squared term, polynomial of degree 2. So far, we have factorized things like this. Okay, that's what you did on exam 2. Now we're going to stick an equal sign and ask you to solve it. And that's what makes it quadratic equation. And there's not much to it. We're going to go a little beyond it, just a little, not beyond quadratic equation. We're going to do a few more things. The first thing I'm going to do is going to be very straightforward. Okay, so I'm going to come to this page and do a problem from your book. And when we go back and do some of the problems, we're going to talk about the notes. So I'm going to teach this a little differently. I'm going to start with a problem. So how do we solve a quadratic equation? Well, you factorize the left-hand side like you have done so far in this class. And then you're going to solve for x, and we're going to tell you how you can do it. All right. So we're going to write. Remember, guys, we try to find out what two numbers, when multiplied, give you 10. I'm going to go with, let me move my little cursor here. You probably can't see, but I have to move it. Okay. So I'm going to say go back. 10 is 5 times 2. And if I subtract or add 5 and 2 properly with the right signs, do I get -3? The answer is yes, I do. And how does that work? Well, let's take 5 and 2. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way, like we haven't done it. And we're going to write -5, that same 5, and x plus 2. All right. Why did I do it like this? Why? You could have written x minus 2 and x plus 5. You could have, but that wouldn't work. Take a look. -5 and plus 2 is -10. Good. And -5x and plus 2x is -3x. So this is the best one. If the first time you do it, it doesn't work out, that's totally fine. You'll have to try it, but I can do some of these things. Most of you can do it in your head. So we're kind of beyond that point, right? So now another thing to note, guys, any number times 0, I'm going to put in parentheses, is 0. So when the answer is 0, either this or this must equal to 0. They could both be 0, of course, but one of them has to be 0, either the first one or the second one. And that's how we write it. That's how we write it. We say x minus 5 equal to 0, or x plus 2 equal to 0. And you solve for x. All right, so take a look at I'm going to call this the red one, and I'm going to call this the green one. Okay. I'm going to solve for x, and I get x. If you subtract 2 from both sides, you're going to get x is -2. And come back and do the red one, pink one. If you add 5 to both sides, you're going to get x is equal to 5. And these are your answers. Now I'm going to check them. Okay. So I'm going to check it a little differently, okay? You have to do it by hand. It's easy to check. This is not difficult. So I'm going to see if I can use this software, which you don't have and you don't need it. The reason I like it, it keeps my work. So you don't have to know how to do it. You will do it by hand. I'm going to say x squared. Instead of x, I'm going to write 5 squared minus 3. I'm not going to write x. I'm going to write 5. That's my value minus 10. I hope the answer is 0. And the answer is 0. So I know x is equal to 5 is a correct answer. Then I'm going to check x is equal to minus 2 in green. Okay. Then I'm going to come back to the screen and give you a couple of minutes to process it. Now I'm going to take -2 on your calculator. Be careful about your -2. It's not same as minus, but on my calculator, this is a cheap calculator. It's the same. I hope this is also equal to 0. Oops. -2 and 3 and -10. And that's why I like this. You can fix your mistake. And look, it is 0. So I don't know how well you can see this, -2 squared and 3 times -2 minus 10 is 0. So we know our answers are correct. I'm not going to worry about it, but I'm going to leave it here. Here we are. So let's take a look, see if we have any questions about how we can solve very basic quadratic equations. I'll give you a couple of minutes to process, okay? All right, guys, so let's move on. Let's see what else is coming up, okay? Now, so this is called factoring. Let's do one more, okay? Let's do one more, something that looks a little uglier. Let's do number 5, unless you want to pick one. Actually, guys, let's do number 5. I'm going to do a couple more, okay? Let's do number 5. This is not that difficult. So this one says, so basically 60, 6 times 10 is 60. When you multiply it, you get 60. Now 6 times 5, 6 times, let me think. And we have to find 5 times 12. We have to find 11. We have to factor it into 11. Let's see how we can do it. 6 times 10, but that doesn't give me 11. Okay. So what does give me? 2 times 30 won't give me. 3 times 20 won't give me. 4 times 15 does. So let's erase it. 4 times 15. It's a little bit of work. Okay. 4 times 15. Let me try. So when you subtract 4 from 15, you're going to get 11. So, and let's see, it's going to be a little messy, guys. So I may have to try a couple of times. Okay. 2x times 3x. That takes care of 2x and 3x. That takes care of 6x squared, right? How do we take care of this? Let me think about it a little bit. Well, let me come back to it. I'm not going to worry about it. It's a little messy, okay? I'm going to come back to it. I hate to waste your time, but I'll have to think about number 5. Does anybody have something right off that you want to share? I hate to waste your time. I'll think about it and I'll come back. Anybody has a quick suggestion? That's how they're going to factorize it. You see it right away. Okay. It's something I'll do a little later, okay? Maybe I'll record it after class. Okay, let's try this one. This is going to be a little messy, number 14. Okay. And I'll teach you one more trick about the formula, how you can use the formula. Okay, so this one, guys, this is kind of the same thing, except for it doesn't look like a typical quadratic function. What does that mean? Well, this side, you have to FOIL it first. When you FOIL this, what do you get? If you want, we can rewrite it like this: 2x plus 1 times 2x plus 1. And if you FOIL it properly, you're going to get 4x squared plus 2x plus 2x, 2x plus 2x right here, and 1 right here. So the right-hand side, the left-hand side is still this guy, 10x minus 1. It looks much better. So I'm going to write here 4x squared, 2x plus 2x is 4x. Okay. And minus, there is a 1 here. I'm going to leave it alone. 10x minus 1. All right. I'm going to move. It's a quadratic function, quadratic equation. The highest power of x is 2. I'm going to move everything to the same side. Let's say the right-hand side. I am going to get 4x squared plus this 4x and this 10x. I'm going to write it like this: minus 10x. And this one and this negative 1 will move, so it'll become positive 1. And what do I get, guys? And the whole thing, I moved everything on the same side, right-hand side. Then I wrote the 0 afterwards. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with it. So I'm going to simplify this further. This is what I'm getting: 4x squared minus 4x minus 10 is minus 6x. 1 plus 1 is 2, equal to 0. Okay, I'm going to check for 1 second. Okay, I don't want to make a big mistake and then decide. So give me 1 second before I move to the next step. That sounds about right. So guys, I can divide both sides by the same number. If I divide the left-hand side by 2, I'm going to get 2. I like smaller numbers. Minus 3x plus 1. Now I have to play with it and factorize it. Okay, and it shouldn't be that bad. Okay, I'll tell you what I mean. So how do I factorize this? Well, I have to have a 2x. I have to have a 1, and I have to have x and a 1. Okay, what do I know, guys? 2x and x will give me 2x, and 1 times 1 will give me 1. Either both will have to be minus, or both will have to be plus. I just have 2 options to try, okay? The one that I skipped, I'm going to record after class, and I'm going to upload it. That I have to try many options. So this one, guys, it's not too bad. Now, it seems like minus will do the job. I'll show you how. I just started with minus. If you do plus, if you put plus here, you will be okay with the last term and the first term, but this term will be plus, and you don't want that. So I'm going to go with minus, and I'm going to show you that this is true. That's correct. All right, why does it work, guys? The middle term is minus 1 times x is minus x. And the outside terms are minus 1 times 2x is minus 2x, which turns out to be negative 3x. And that's okay because that's exactly what I got. So I'm going to erase some of this, some of the extra marks that I have. It's a little distracting. It's nice to check at each step. So now I'm going to solve for x. Remember, guys, how we said that this means 2x minus 1 is 0, or x minus 1 is 0. So 2x minus 1 is 0 means 2x is equal to 1. You're adding 1 to both sides. Therefore, x is half. Here, this one is easy. Add 1 to both sides. You're going to get x is equal to 1. So these are my answers. X could be either positive 1 or positive half. I'm going to go back and check it very carefully on my calculator right here. So what am I doing now, guys? In the main problem, I am replacing x with 1. And this one is easy to check. You can do it almost in your head. I'm going to say 10 times 1 minus 1 is 9. Okay. I'm going to do the right-hand side number, calculate. 2 times 1 plus 1. I'm going to square it, and they better match. Hopefully they match, and they do. So 1 is correct. All right, 1 is true. Is half correct? Well, let's find out. Half is 0.5. 10 times 0.5 minus 1, which turns out to be 4. Okay. Calculate. 2 times 0.5 plus 1, and I have to square it. And that's also correct. So we know our answers are correct. So I'm going to pause here a little bit to take some questions, guys. Let's see who's here. You guys are very quiet today. Anybody wants to tell me if they follow what I'm doing? Let's start with the positive. How many of you think you follow what I'm doing? Anyone wants to say? Any questions, guys?
I understand it.
Very good. And thank you for responding. Anyone else has any questions? Okay, let's move on, guys. Let's move on. Okay. Okay, so this is the easy part. And I won't forget, I'll do your number 5, record a video. So don't worry. What else is going on? Okay, guys. This one, zero product rule principle, we talked about it. When you multiply two numbers and the answer is 0, one of them has to be 0. So you write a is equal to 0, b is equal to 0. Okay, before we get into the quadratic formula, it's something you have seen, something we're going to use a lot for the rest of the semester. It's right here. Before we get to it, we're going to do a few other things. Okay. So let's see what else they want. So what do they mean by the square root property? Not difficult at all. Let's do some of the easy ones. Okay. Then we're going to do some of the harder ones here. So let's do a very easy one. Let's do number 16 first. What does it mean to find the square? Your quadratic formula, quadratic factoring won't necessarily work here. Okay. So this is the next chunk. I'm going to do an easy one first. Then I'm going to go ahead and do some of the more messier ones. So when they say square root property, I will just ask you to solve it, and you're factoring, there's nothing to factor here, right? So you're going to do something like this. Your goal will be to isolate, let me see. Your goal will be to isolate x squared. Okay, you want to keep x squared on one side. And the way to do it is divide both sides by 5. And what do you get? You get x squared equal to 9. Okay, remember guys, when you have a square, you can take square root of both sides. Since it's kind of our first day doing this, I'm going to take square root of both sides. When you take the square root of 9, it's a good habit to stick a plus minus here, because square root of 9 is positive 3 and negative 3. Remember guys, in section prereq, we did x. This means this to the power half. And if you have 2 powers, you multiply the powers, 2 times half, and your answer is going to be 1. And we don't write 1. So the answer is going to be x. Basically, what we're trying to say is the radical sign and the square, they kind of cancel each other. Hence, on the left-hand side, I can write x. On the right-hand side, I can write plus minus 3. Done. So this is called using the square root property. When you have square root property, generally you will see just x squared, but nothing like 5x, 6x. So you won't be able to factorize it in the traditional sense. I'm going to pause there a little bit to see if people have any questions. All right, I think I'll be able to do a couple more before we switch. Okay, guys, these are short problems. Let's try something like this. Okay, 21. Now you can always tell me, can you do that? I'll be happy to do it. 21. Seems like it's a tricky problem, but it's really not. So what is 21 trying to, what are we trying to do here? Okay. My goal is to isolate x, and this one is a little, looks like it's supposed to be tricky, but it's not tricky. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Okay. If I take the square root of the left-hand side, my square and square root will cancel nicely, and that's a good thing. And when I take the square root of the right-hand side, I'm going to stick a plus minus here. And I'm going to quickly go ahead and say, well, this has to be 5. And don't forget the plus minus. On the exam, guys, if you just find one answer and there are 2 answers, you're going to lose points. So this time, like before, I can cancel the radical sign with this. I can cancel this with this. All right, guys. So I'm going to write x. Let's go back to our pink. I'm going to write x plus 2. All right. Now, I am going to go ahead and write x equal to plus minus 5 minus 2. So basically, guys, I'm subtracting 2 from both sides. Why? Because I want x to be all by itself. Now here, I really have two answers. Plus 5 minus 2 is plus 3. And I'm going to write or. And minus 5 minus 2 is minus 7. Now, I'm going to just tell you, you can check it in your head. Look, replace x with 3. Okay. Replace x with 3. You get 25. Yes, you do. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 squared is 25. Okay, fine. We tested the first one. Now replace x with negative 7. Negative 7 plus 2 is negative 5. Negative 5 squared is positive 25. So we know our answers are correct. We are very confident. I'm going to pause there a little bit. Okay, guys? Any questions from anyone, guys? I know this is not that bad for you guys. That's what you guys are trying to say. Seems like, at least that's what your silence is saying. So guys, I'm going to jump. It's the same. If you want, I can do one more. Let's do number 30. Why not? Or maybe 34. Let's do 34 and we're going to go to the next section. And the next section is a little challenging. Next section doesn't mean next section of the book, next section of this problem set. Okay, I am going to take the square root of both sides, and that will allow me to say I'm going to write plus minus. I'm going to simplify it 27. Okay, I'm going to write it like that for now. It's not 25, so you can't write like 5. Okay, here the green radical sign on the left-hand side and the power 2 will cancel, and you simply have this. Now, on the right-hand side, guys, I'm going to show you in red on the side, okay? I'm going to say square root of 27 can be written as square root of 3 times 9, because 27 is 3 times 9. Now, when you have multiplying things inside the radical sign distributes. So square root of 3, you can't do anything about it. Leave it as square root of 3. And the square root of 9 is going to be 3. And generally, we write the number all by itself. Square root of 9 is 3 right here first, square root of 3. So now you know how plus minus square root of 27 is really plus minus 3 square root of 3. We're going to go back to our green and put it right here. And we're almost done, guys. And yes, you have to reduce it. You have to simplify it like I'm simplifying here. Now the rest is very easy. I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 2. Done. That's my answer. I'm not going to check it, but I will check my work. Okay. If this works, I'm going to just double check. It's very messy to check it that way, but I think, I mean, we can if you want me to, but I think it's getting a little redundant, but I'll quickly check my work. I'll check it for you, but let me check my work first. Okay. I'm going to check at least one value. That sounds about right, guys. Okay, so this thing here, how do we check something like this? Okay, this is how we check it. I'm going to use my calculator to find out. I'll check the positive one first. 3 times square root of 3 minus 8 divided by 2. 3 times square root of 3 minus 8 divided by 2. This is my answer in decimal. This is my answer. I'm going to put this negative 1.4 here in my question and see if this is correct. And it's not, it's a little messy. You can do it like this. You can say, I'm going to just, it won't be exact because we are rounding it off, okay? Your calculator will give you more values. I'll show you a few more. So just bear with me. We are actually entering negative 1.4 right here. So it'll be a little off, but if it's close enough, I'll be happy. So negative 1.4 times 2 plus 8. And when I square it, I hope to get something close to 27. And I am getting, I'm happy. Okay. So now I don't have to check the other one. That's just its buddy, right? If this one is right, that has to be right. So I'm good. I'm happy. And yeah, you have to calculate it. You're going to enter a number. When you check it, take the first 1 or 2 decimal places. That'll be good enough. You'll be satisfied. I'll be satisfied. So I'm going to pause. It's going to kick us out like in 1.5 minutes, but I'm going to pause there for a little bit. We're not going anywhere. We're going to come back and continue working on this section. And hang on to your questions if you have any. If it kicks you out, hang on to your question. I'm going to start. Well, why don't we do this, guys? This will kick us out in 1.5 minutes. Let's get out of here, restart the session, come back and see you soon, guys. Really soon. I'm not going to get rid of this slide.